I am Samuel Kojo Brace, and this is Joy News Prime. Welcome. In our headlines, this are fresh details emerge about the arrest of Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, former chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. Also coming up, what is the state of Ken Must Go agenda started by some NPP MPs following Ghana securing an IMF deal? The majority leader has an update. Now, also growing numbers of refugees in the northern sector as more persons flee neighboring Burkina Faso to seek asylum in Ghana. We'll also hear from President Akufo-Addo, who admits that the influx may have allowed some terrorist entry into the country. A former chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, has been arrested by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Our sources say the OSP's actions are connected to investigations into the dissolved Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining and his involvement in the activities. He was released on a 5 million cedis bail. Now, let's turn to our presidential affairs correspondent, Elton John Brobe, who's joining us via phone with some more on this development. Elton, what more do we know?
So, Samuel, this investigation, according to our sources, and indeed collaborated by some officials at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, actually started in 2022. Specifically, in October 2022, the Office of the Special Prosecutor wrote to Professor Frimpong Boateng, who was chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, and said that it had commenced investigations into suspected corruption and corruption-related offences in respect of illegal mining. It was also stated that the investigation targeted the activities and expenditure of the dissolved Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, especially in respect of the seizure and management of excavators, machinery, road vehicles, and some gold nuggets. This same invitation was also extended to some officials of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, as well as the Forestry Commission, and other public officials and private persons. Now, we know that not much was done in this respect in 2022. Now, the OSP will pick up this matter again in May, 2nd May to be precise, when it acknowledged the recent calls for actions and investigations into the matters of Galamsey by the public and civil society following the publication of a report on parts of these matters authored by former Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Professor Frimpong Boateng. So on the 16th of May, Professor Frimpong Boateng formally answered that call and appeared before investigators working on behalf of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Now, he was asked to provide certain information. One of them, expenditure covering an amount of 320 million Ghana cedis. Government, gave the committee to fight illegal mining, also to account for some missing excavators, some vehicles, some drones, some gold nuggets allegedly stolen by some operatives under the guise of the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining. Now, what we picked was on the 16th when Professor Frimpong Boateng appeared before the investigators and the question of his arrest came up. He got upset, walked out of the investigation room, and then to his home. Now, what we have been told is that he was followed to his residence, where the investigators again told him that he was under arrest and then on bail in a sum of bail bond in a sum of 5 million Ghana cedis, and they were in his house to establish his residence and to let him know that whenever they need him, they will call him to assist in an investigation. So this arrest actually took place, was formally communicated to him on the 16th of May when he first appeared before the committee probing the activities of the Interministerial Committee.
So, Elton, for clarity, this arrest has nothing to do with the report he authored about illegal mining.
No, absolutely. But then further to that, there's been a wider investigation into the publication or the letter he submitted to the Office of the Chief of Staff. But the original invitation to him was to come and assess or to answer questions relating to expenditure And the amount is quite huge, 320 million Ghana cedis. There's also some vehicles that cannot be accounted for. There's also discrepancy on the number of excavators that were seized, 500, 200, 300, it is unknown. Some are parked around Adenta, but the number is nowhere near the one that was reported when this matter was at its peak. So he was called to respond to these matters. And then the OSP welcomed the call for action and investigation into the correspondence between Professor Frimpong Boateng and the Office of the Chief of Staff, which has now become a matter of public knowledge. Now, what I can tell you for sure is that a tall list of individuals, including some journalists, some former ministers, some serving ministers, some former appointees of the government, some people who are described by the OSP as politically exposed, some have already appeared before the committee. They've written their statement and they've been cautioned. Some are yet to be invited. In fact, in the last hour, what I've picked from the office is that in the days to follow, more names are going to drop regarding the investigation into the publication by Professor Frimpong Boateng. But Professor Frimpong Boateng's invitation had to do more with the amount government spent on the committee, how the money was utilized by the committee, the whereabouts of some machinery, road vehicles, gold nuggets, excavators, and the management of it as well. And then they did not finish with their investigation because he got upset when he was told that formally they were placing him under arrest, and then he walked out of the investigation. But they followed him up to his house to let him know that the mere mention of the fact that you are under arrest should be taken as official, and that is where we are now. So when they want to take the matter to court, the OSP still said they are gathering some information. They call it far-reaching investigation that also covers matters raised in the report published by the professor.
Okay. Now, do we understand the total value of the items in question?
So what we know about the budgetary allocation to the committee that we are told is around 320 million Ghana cedis. How that money was utilized is what the committee or the special prosecutor is demanding answers and demanding forensic audits of this. And they want the good old Professor Frimpong Boateng to provide evidence to back expenditure. And my information is that the evidence provided so far does not support the amount of money that was given the committee to do its work. There's also the exact number of excavators that were seized during the operations of the Interministerial Committee. There's also allegation that whilst they were preventing people from undertaking illegal mining, some of them actually resorted to the stealing of gold nuggets. They are demanding to know the whereabouts of the gold nuggets that allegedly were stolen by some people operating under the umbrella of the Interministerial Committee. So, from what I've been told, the charges against Professor Frimpong Boateng is quite grave and quite serious.
Okay.
So is the charge against some senior government officials, former government, some ministers, some former government officials, whom we are told in the days to come, their names and the details regarding their roles will be put out in the public domain ahead of a formal, hearing in court.
Grateful to you. Now, let's turn our attention to Dr. Ken Ashigbe, who is with the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. He joins us via Zoom. Grateful to you, Doc, for joining us here. Your reaction to this arrest of Professor Frimpong Boateng?
Well, surprising when I saw it, late this afternoon, and to then do my checks, and as you have mentioned, realize that this was happened on the 16th of May. For me, the coincidence was my initial worry. But then I also realized that this is the special prosecutor. And, we know the special prosecutor, and we've come to realize the modus operandi of the special prosecutor, the way they do their work. They don't do a lot of talking. They spend a lot of time doing their investigations, and all of that. And I was on Joy FM with Samson and Elton, and so when the further and better particulars were provided about the fact that, coming from October last year, it is now that he's being invited. We would want to give the special prosecutor a lot of, benefit of the doubt and not speculate that much. But what we would want to say is that the coincidence, is interesting, and we would be looking at that because we know that when the interministerial work and all the issues, the brouhaha around it, we know the report that the professor has given. And so if it is that the special prosecutor is following its standard operating procedures, then we will be expecting that not only former ministers, not only former government officials, not only journalists, but even sitting ministers, who are
Well, so we are on with Dr. Ken Ashway, who is convener for the Media Coalition Against Galamsey. Yeah, Doc, you're making a point.
Sorry, yes, I had to switch to my phone, so I think there was a call that was coming. I was just saying that, so we'll be expecting that when sitting ministers are also called and they also go in and they are questioned, we'll be expecting the same treatment, that they would also be, caution statements would be taken, and they would also be granted bail. Those who are standing surety for them, the special prosecutor will go to their houses to go and inspect that, would expect the same treatment. But most importantly, we would want, very independent, investigation into these matters, and anybody who is found culpable, faces the full rigors of the law. And that is really, really very important. And it's also important to state that in recent days, of all the surveys that have been done, Afrobarometer being one of the last one, the confidence and the trust of the people in the institutions of states is really waning. The special prosecutor tends to be one of the last bastions of hope for all of us. So our expectation is that they would really do a thorough job at this. And I will still not, apart from what the work that the special prosecutor is doing, because their job is more towards corruption and corruption-related activities. I think on this issue of illegal mining and the report of the professor, there are issues that go beyond just corruption and corruption-related activities. There are issues of the governance of the whole natural resources of this country. There are issues of people who have flouted cabinet decisions. There's grave issues of our very, sustainability as a people that is at stake. That we hope that there'll be some investigation. So my call would be for the president to put together either a committee or a commission with the right, terms of reference, such that we can have an independent, transparent, and have very knowledgeable people, credible people in the society sitting on this committee, get people to provide evidence so that we'll be able to stop the rot that currently, we are faced with, and also be able to make sure that those who have actually committed this ecological terrorism on ourselves really are brought to book. Tomorrow, as we speak, we would be honoring the invitation of the Director General CID on this issue of Akonta mining and their culpability so far as mining in the forest reserve is concerned. And so it's really important that all of us, because the situation that we're seeing now is more dire than when the interministerial was in place.
Interesting. Grateful to you for joining us here with your perspective. Now, Lawyer Samson Ladi Ayenini is on Zoom with legal perspective of this matter. Grateful to you, lawyer, for joining us here. Now, many will look at this as the SP being tough on illegal mining. You really understand how the law plays out here. How do you see it? Hello, Lawyer Samson Ladi Ayenini. So I'm trying to find out from you what you make of this development coming in from the Special Prosecutor's Office.
Right. Can you hear me?
Exactly, yes.
Great. So the Special Prosecutor's Office, in very standard terms, It's like visiting any police station when you have been invited to go there. So when they extend an invitation to you, in our part of the world and in this country, we say that's some courtesy being done to you instead of coming to your premises or your home or wherever you are to arrest you. Mm-hmm. So when they extend an invitation to you and you are a subject of a complaint or subject of a matter that it is investigating, you must consider yourself under arrest once you get to their premises. Unless in a circumstance where you get to them, they take you through their processes, they ask you questions or what they call interview. They don't want to use the old, scary language of interrogation and the rest of them. So they say they interview you. In the process of the interview or at the end of the interview, if they make a determination that you are not going to be used, you are not going to be a suspect, but rather a person of interest, somebody who can assist them in the process, then they will make you give a statement, but that statement doesn't render you a suspect. So you are not under arrest. But in Professor Boateng's situation, the outcome is that he's under arrest. He's been cautioned and granted bail. That means he's a suspect. But as they tell us, the process is ongoing. So it's maybe that in the end, he may not remain a suspect to be charged. As we understand, there are several other people who are connected to the issue, who have also gone through the process, who have also given caution statements, and who have been granted bail. So I'll say that at this time, we can only wait to see what will happen. The special prosecutor has the powers, police powers, granted under our Criminal and Other Offences Act 1960. So it does its work just like the police, except that they have very special powers. The powers, as I was saying earlier to your colleague Evans, the powers that we know that EOCO has, and under the regime where you fear them as a serious fraud office, they have all those powers, and they even have extra powers in the way they go about what they have to do.
Okay. Now, people will be talking about the coincidence of his report and his arrest. Does it really make a difference here?
Well, as we know, this is not fresh, except that he has disclosed it now. I will say that the best thing to do now is that it is wise not to speculate, particularly when we know that under the law, the special prosecutor is duty-bound under Section 3.3 of the Special Prosecutor Act, Office of Special Prosecutor Act, to supply the public with information. Sometimes we have seen them, not sometimes, we have seen the Special Prosecutor's Office do this very regularly. So we should wait for them to provide the information when they will do it as required by law. If they don't do so, and they are going to mount prosecution very soon, then we will get to know the full details. We should give them the benefit of the doubt for now. But I am satisfied and happy that the manner in which they are going about their work, it gives all of us hope and the assurance that the fact that you are politically exposed, the fact that you are influential in society, does not mean that you can get away with murder in this country.
Okay. Grateful to you for joining us here, Lawyer Samson Lardy Ayenini. Moving on to other stories. Majority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu says NPP MPs will have to take a decision on Ken Ofori-Atta following some of their colleagues demanding his removal. More than 100 NPP MPs last year stirred controversy when they demanded the firing of the president's cousin. After some back and forth, the president promised to act on their demand after the IMF deal is finalized. So what has become of that? Majority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu says the entire caucus must take a stand on that.
Ken must go upright. That one, it will have to be determined by the caucus. So let's leave it to what determination that the caucus comes to. As you rightly said, it was started by a few people. It became the position of the entire caucus. The entire caucus may have to engage to see what it is that must be done going forward. That's my response. That's my response.
It may be revised like the standard.
Well, as I said, it's only a madman who doesn't change his mind. But we'll engage the entirety of the caucus and then maybe to also meet the president if it becomes necessary. Sometimes it's good to let sleeping dogs lie. Sometimes. I should also consider that, as you rightly said, have we finished our engagement with the IMF? The president said, let him conclude our engagement with the IMF. Have we finished our engagement with the IMF? That's another question. Anyway, so we are where we are, and we prosecute it if and when it becomes necessary.
Now, Minority Chief Whip governs Kwame Agboja says newly approved Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu must leave a better legacy than her predecessor Kwesi Enin-Yeboah in terms of justice delivery. The Adaklu MP accused Enin-Yeboah of presiding over a Supreme Court which made some bad judgments, citing the court's decision in the birth certificate case and the recent Jachi Kwesin case. There is more in the following report.
AI. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted, and the House has accordingly given prior approval to the appointment of the nominee to the position of a Chief Justice.
Despite both sides agreeing to approve Justice Tokonu's nomination, the debate leading up to this was ferocious. The Minority Chief Whip tore into some of the Supreme Court's recent judgments.
I think she's got what it takes to be a Supreme Court judge. And I am hopeful, Mr. Speaker, that she will be a better Chief Justice than the person she's taking over from. Why do I say this, Mr. Speaker? Under the reign of the outgoing Chief Justice, the level of miscarriage of justice in this country reached a crescendo and must never be repeated. And the former Chief Justice must know when he goes home, this miscarriage of justice rests on his chest.
But first, Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Wusu fired back at the Minority Chief Whip, insisting he was on a bad trajectory.
Judges know that as humans they can err, and judges always welcome criticism of their judgment. But when we are critiquing a judgment, it is expected that we will critique the judgment with law, with facts, with alternative argument.
The debate leading to the approval of the nominee centered mainly on the Jachi Kwesin case and whether or not the Supreme Court is amenable to criticism. Former Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu argued that the court is not above criticism.
The Supreme Court is not above the criticisms of the Parliament of Ghana. Indeed, in civilized jurisdictions and even in Ghana, the Supreme Court or the courts are servants of the legislature. We make the law. They are to interpret the law. That is why we are enjoined not to use language that is ambiguous. When they are interpreting the law, they are supposed to be guided by the words the legislature uses, that members of parliament uses. So nobody should think that freedom of expression is limited only in our bedrooms of Ghana. That did they construe the words before filing of nominations and before elections? Are those words synonymous? Do they mean the same? Mr. Speaker, I beg to disagree. They probably got it wrong. Before filing nominations cannot be the same thing as at the time of elections. But the legislature make the law, and therefore they ought to consider all other variables in the determination of the decisions that they make. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, you swore in a member of parliament for Kumao. At what material time, Mr. Speaker, did you administer the oath of allegiance to him? And therefore, was the Supreme Court making a determination on allegiance to the state And at what stage was Jesse Quayson swearing to an oath of allegiance? Was it at the time of filing or at the time of election or when he swore in this chamber?
However, MP for Ebuako South, Samuel Atachia, warned that the NDC MPs should not turn Parliament into a Supreme Court review chamber.
You know the processes of amendment, which we have even the power to issue in this House. Mr. Speaker, I agree with you that any time we are in this chamber and then we veer into territories that are not ours, we will make some serious errors.
With the approval of Parliament now out of the way, the only thing stopping Justice Gertrude Torkornoo of becoming the new Chief Justice of the Republic is the swearing in of the Republic. But we understand that is a given, and as soon as this evening or early tomorrow, President Akufo-Addo will swear her in to become the third female Chief Justice of the Republic. And a lot of people have expressed optimism that she will be the one to turn the tides. In recent times, the Supreme Court and the judiciary have come under a barrage of criticism, particularly from the opposition NDC and elements within that faction who say that the court's judgments have not been reasoned enough in the Constitution. Reporting for Joy News, Kwiku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And in our studios here in Kokomlemle, I am Samuel Kojo Obrace. Moving to other stories, more than 3,000 displaced persons from neighboring Burkina Faso have been seeking asylum in Ghana for the past 9 months. That is according to the Ghana Refugee Board. Executive Secretary Tete Paddy says the number is expected to increase as more of these foreigners continue to leave their country as a result of terrorist activities there. He says although the situation is worrying, his outfit continues to work with relevant security agencies to properly screen before admitting them into the country. He will be joining us shortly via Zoom, but first, Ghana's High Commissioner to Burkina Faso, His Excellency Adagbila Boniface Gambila, says the upsurge in terrorist activities have caused nearly 2 million people from Burkina Faso to move to Ghana, Togo, and other neighboring countries.
And now with the terrorism, pushes them to move as a matter of security because they have to run away to protect their lives because the terrorists are really they are horrific. And so people, they can come to communities and start slaughtering men, all men, and leave the women. So you find that the women and children have to run. Men who are able to escape have to run. So that is, it has been an upsurge of the normal migration to a forced migration. So far, the figures indicate we have nearly 2 million displaced persons, nearly 2 million, because the figures available are about 1,900,000 and something. So, but these are official figures. It means normal official figures are what we are able to have on. So we have nearly 2 million internally displaced persons moving down to the coastal countries.
Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo is admitting to difficulties in controlling the influx of these refugees to Ghana. More worrying for him is that some of the terrorists operating in the region may have entered the country already. Interacting with foreign ministers from Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, the president said maintaining a grip on the situation remains a priority.
We here in Ghana are beginning to get an unusual and very unhealthy number of refugees beginning to take place here in Ghana as a result of the occurrence in Burkina Faso, both on our northwest border as well as on our northeast border. A lot of people coming in, and you can be sure that some of them belong to these terrorist groupings. It's not as difficult to be able to maintain complete control of the flow of refugees that are coming, and to be able to identify everybody that is coming into the territory. But it is an exercise that we cannot share, and we have to do our best to make sure that we have a strong hand on this. There are many areas of cooperation in this whole anti-terrorist struggle that we are engaged in with the European Union, the various countries. Yes, President Charles Michel was here. I've also had occasion to meet him a couple of times in Brussels, of course at various international fora, and we continue to work. The European Union seems determined to find ways of assisting us here in Ghana to be able to confront this menace. We're already in very significant discussions with.
Joining us now is Head of Research and Capacity Building at the West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP, Dr. Festus Kofi Obeng. Doc, grateful for joining us. Now, can you help us understand how terrorist groups exploit the vulnerabilities of persons, indoctrinate them, and get them to do their bidding?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. Yes, I mean, when it comes to indoctrination and radicalization by terror groups, they always look out for vulnerabilities of communities and risk factors where they can easily exploit. One of them is localized conflict, where they can support one group against the other in order to pursue their interests. The other is areas where it lacks adequate state presence. That is what most people term as ungoverned spaces, where they also exploit the community people to actually have an influence.
We apologize for that, but let's take you to the Asin North constituency, where the New Patriotic Party has elected Charles Opoku as the candidate to face off with NDC's James Gyakye Quayson in the Asin North by-election scheduled for 27th of June. Charles Opoku secured 397 to beat Freeman Che, who managed 136 votes out of the 533 vote cast. The leadership of the NPP says the end of the primaries signals the beginning of an aggressive campaign aimed at winning the by-election. Richard Kojo Nyako brings us a wrap of what happened in the constituency. Well, so Richard is joining us live from the constituency. Richard, you've been in the constituency and you've witnessed how this by-election went. But after the by-election, what has been happening after that?
So there have been two crucial campaigns by the NPP and the NDC. So Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, the 2020 running mate of the NDC, has been leading the charge in the constituency for the NDC, while the General Secretary of the NPP has also been leading the other charge for the NPP in this particular constituency. And I must say that it's really, really a serious campaign the two of them are waging. So after the contest, they paraded through the principal street of Asin Akomfode and then went through to Asin Breku, where a mammoth rally was done to signal the launch of their campaign actually in the constituency. On the other hand, the NDC was also crisscrossing various towns within the constituency. Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman has been addressing the people. She says that they should brush aside all the propaganda against Mr. George Gyakye Quayson because he means well to them. He came for the development of the people. And so any propaganda against him that should they vote for him, he will go to jail, they should brush all of these aside. Mr. Quayson himself has also been speaking, and he's been reiterating the same point that he's a free man. If they want to arrest him, they can arrest him. But for them to be going about saying that a vote for him means that he will go to jail after that is really unfortunate. And so he's asked the residents to rally solidly behind him to ensure victory for the NDC.
Now, you've been interacting with the constituent. What have they been telling you?
Well, so it's an expression of joy and surprise at the same time. Joy because they are happy that there are a lot of development projects that are ongoing, apart from the 32-kilometer stretch of road that would be commissioned, we are told will be commissioned by the president. There is also an AstroTurf, but within the towns themselves, all the major roads are being given facelifts. So you see earth-moving equipment that are in the various towns within the constituency that are constructing drainage. They are also preparing the surfacing for other bitumen surface to be applied on. And the residents are really surprised with the speed of light with which all of these things are happening. And so these are their concerns, but they are really happy that after all there are developments, and whether it is for towards the by-election, that is why they are doing that. They want development.
All right, let's listen to some of the people that Richard spoke to.
What's your name?
My name is Isaac.
So why are you here? Were you a delegate?
Yes, please.
Okay, who did you vote for?
For that one.
But we are done with the election. Did you vote for Charles?
Yeah.
Why did you vote for Charles?
Oh, I love him. And he has put some things in measure that you want to help us in people. And that's why I love him.
It's been said that Charles comes from this constituency. He's done a lot. What are some of the things that Charles has done that will make you vote for him?
Oh, a lot. A lot.
Like I want you to name just two of them.
Oh, well, almost some year ago, I think he selected some people and he have been helping them to get their handwork so that they can also cater for themselves. So a lot.
Personally, are you happy that a project will begin and then they stop for about 2, 3, 4 years, and then because there is a by-election, they quickly come and then they start asphalting the road, constructing the drainage and all of that? Personally, take yourself not as a party person.
All right. I think the government have already put these things into measures, and not because of the by-election. I think the project is under contract, so they have been doing their job already.
Bacha efremi mafia.
Na dentina wo ye delegate ala.
Me pa cho da bi.
Na ewie nka we se ka koye adwuma bi ni ade adentina wo ha se a me so wadi asa ho nyina akra fo.
Me pa cha me party ni hu dontia. Tina Malaysia me wa ha no mo no.
Na party ni wa ye den ankasa ama wo.
Oh, onye ahwe ma me de ba me ni akọ free education. Tina ma me so me di akire bi no.
Beto ama Jo Kwesi na so beto ama Charles.
Me pa cha me de me MPP ni ba nti meto ma MPP.
Okay, thank you. So I was asking her why she even came here, and he said that this is his party, her party, and she will vote for the party any day. She's an MPP sympathizer. The party has not really done anything for her specifically, but her brother has enjoyed a free SHS, and in terms of development, they need development, and that is why the various constructions are currently ongoing.
Free SS. I'm a son Obia and Edmasen Fata. They are watching so urban on so bad. I mean, Uncle Sansono, it was a noble Aquasua, many general. And the MPP there, I buy or bar, if you are seen a bassa, I'm a young son in your family.
Well, so what this man is also saying is that, well, the MPP hasn't really done anything for him, but for the fact that 2 of his siblings have benefited from the free senior high school, and there are numerous projects that are also being done in the constituency. That is the basis for him to vote for Charles Opoku and by extension the MPP.
Well, let me go back to Richard. Richard, so in wrapping up, what do you, from what you've seen, what do you expect to be happening tonight leading into tomorrow morning?
Also, the campaigns are already eating deep into the night. They just finished with a campaign here at Assempraso. They have been going to the other towns, so it indicates that it is not only during the day that these campaigns will go on, but these campaigns by the various teams, the NDC and the MPP, will eat into the night on a daily basis until the 27th, where the by-election will be held. So we are looking forward for action-oriented campaigns by these 2 major political parties. Already, big wigs of the party have besieged the constituency, and all hotels within the constituencies are full, we are told.
Grateful to you. That's Richard Kojoyako joining us from the Asin North constituency. We're going to take a break, but when we return, we'll bring back the story about refugees besieging the northern part of the country with fears that there will be some terrorists already who have infiltrated into the country. We'll bring you that after the break. Welcome back. Now, going back to our earlier story, more than 3,000 displaced persons from neighboring Burkina Faso have been seeking asylum in Ghana for the past 9 months. That is according to the Ghana Refugee Board. Executive Secretary Tete Padi says the number is expected to increase as more of these foreigners continue to leave their country as a result of terrorist activities there. He says although the situation is worrying, his outfit continues to work with relevant security agencies to properly screen before admitting them into the country. Joining us now is Head of Research and Capacity Building at the West Africa Network for Peace Building, WANEP, Dr. Festus Kofi Obeng. Doc, so can you help us understand how terrorist groups exploit the vulnerabilities of persons, indoctrinate them, and get them to do their bidding?
Thank you very much. So usually what terrorist group or violent extremist group do is first of all to look at the risk factors in communities, such as the issues of governance where people feel excluded or marginalized in communities. They look at issues of unemployment, issues of poverty, unresolved intercommunal conflicts, and look at some of the risk factors relating to human rights violations by security forces and all that, to exploit them and win the heart and minds of community people to support them in their activity. So it's a whole different issues based on different contexts and what the risk factors are and how they exploit these risk factors to pursue agenda.
How can we effectively deal with this, taking into cognizance the fact that we have a very porous border along our border towns?
It's quite difficult because we have, like you said, we have porous borders. We have very weak border control system and a lot of unapproved exit points that people use. If you juxtapose it to also the number of security personnel and also resources we have in these areas, is not commensurate with the difficulties that we find across the borders. And so what other states have been doing, especially those who have been affected by these threats, is first of all increasing the presence of security forces around their border areas, working with border communities because they are the first point of engagement with these people who are coming in to seek asylum and refugee status. So working with the border communities is very key. And also having cooperation with your neighboring countries is also very important so that you can monitor the movement of these people through intelligence sharing and through information sharing, monitor the movement and put in place measures to address the consequences of their movement, working with also other international partners like the UNHCR and other UN agencies to deal with the threat.
Grateful to you for joining us here. Now you're still watching Joy News Prime. We'll take a quick break to bring you showbiz. All right, so Becky Bex is in the house. Showbiz.
Hello to you, Brett.
Yeah, I've missed you.
Me too.
Ah.
How was your trip?
Don't
talk about it. It's okay. So let's talk about MOG. Remember his song, "Oh, Be Lifted"?
Yeah.
I remember that
Yeah.
Pastor Donnie McClellan came to Ghana and they had like their own
a
version.
collabo, you know.
Emoji went to the U.S. and visited Pastor Donnie McClelkin, and they had a beautiful performance. It was actually a surprise. And, you know, he said to the congregation, Pastor Donnie McClelkin, that Emoji is one of the biggest and greatest musicians have come from Ghana. Raskuku is on Spotlight this evening. I'm in the spirit. Raskuku, go ahead. Go ahead. Raskuku.
And I don't know, are you an advocate for weed smoking not being in existence now?
No weed smoking, but we are doing it for the love of Mother Earth and nature. Okay. Yeah, man, and for the sensible people. Yeah, man, that is why we are fighting for that.
That's why you are fighting for it?
Yeah, can't you see this? Ganja, only a fool hates you.
Okay, wow. So you have it on your arm now?
Yeah.
For how long have you had this?
From way back, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been there from way back. Only a fool hates you. And Tampe empower them. So, you know, we're doing it for Mother Earth and nature. Yeah.
Don't you think it is against the law?
No, we are not. We are fighting for the legalization of it. Okay. Even gays are fighting for their rights, so we are also fighting for Most High, you know, the creator of Mother Earth and heaven and earth itself. You know.
Well, there's been talks that ever since you got the award from the VGMA, you have relaxed, and the public or your fans are not feeling you like before. They are not feeling the fire like before.
Yeah, the fire is there. The fire is there. You know, the fire is there. Last year I came out with an album called 331. It was everywhere. You know, it was massive everywhere. The only album that I played 12 shows in December, so you should know that, you know. Okay. Don't listen to what people say. I'm working.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Anything for your fans in this year 2023?
Yeah, this year 2023 it's all about Raskuku EP called I Am Reggae.
Okay.
Yeah, I Am Reggae, you know, 4-track EP. I Am Reggae, you know. We can't sit down for some Talia reggae and things to take over the media, is it?
Raskuku right there. But Brace, that will be all. But before we go, let's talk about Nicki Minaj, because she has been sued. Nicki Minaj, she has been dragged to court over some alleged unpaid bills for custom jewelry. But her attorney says that she's not responsible and claims the jeweler is just using the singer for publicity. The rapper is being sued by a West Hollywood jeweler who claims they loaned out some bling to the rapper, a pretty standard transaction for celebrities.
And that's how we wrap up this bulletin. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. And we are grateful that you could join us. Up next is Prime Business with Pius Kojo Baka. All right, so from us here.
We say, and you should go check that Emoji video out. It's a powerful song, and we'll go back to play it, right?
Yeah, sure.
And we're grateful to Pepsodent also for.
Thank you.